Hi, besties. Welcome back to Tea and Takes with Simi. I hope your week, your day, your month has been going fabulously. As you know, I always bring you a cup of hot tea, and today the tea is meat spicy. I would like to talk about something I always find myself saying to my friends a lot when they bring, some scenario to me that has happened to them. I always say to them, do not gaslight yourself. And that's what we'll be delving into today. We all know what gaslighting is, right? Where that thing where someone tries to sort of make you question your own reality. Maybe someone says to you right now, you're stupid. And then immediately you're like, what? Why would you say I'm stupid? And immediately they say, but I never said you were stupid. That's gaslighting. They literally like maybe insult you and try to convince you that that didn't happen. Or when someone throws a jab, maybe something more subtle. And then when you try to be like, why are you acting funny? Why did you say that? They say, no, that's not what I meant. That's gaslighting. But what then happens, or like what we don't talk about enough, I guess, is when we turn around and do that to ourselves, when we turn around and lie to ourselves about something that someone has done to us. Like the person is not the one who gaslighted us. Like in this instance I gave now about the person calling you stupid, is the person saying, but I never called you stupid. But in this instance, what happens when someone literally says you're stupid and we tell ourselves, no, the person didn't say I was stupid? That's what we'll be delving into today. We'll be delving into how we sometimes downplay the severity of what happened to us or what someone is perpetrating in our lives, when we minimize our own pain and excuse behaviors of people that are harmful to us. And we convince ourselves that we are being sensitive or we imagined it or it wasn't that bad. This sounds like, oh yeah, um, my man yells at me sometimes, but he's under so much stress. I shouldn't take it so personally. Maybe I'm too sensitive. Or my bestie puts me down in front of people, or this new friend puts me down in front of people. But yeah, that's just how she jokes. I'm the one that is so sensitive. I just don't know how to. I need to learn how to joke this way. I need to not take her too seriously. Or more severely, he hits me, but he bought me a new Birkin the next day, so maybe I'm overreacting. He bought me a new car the very next day. Maybe I'm the one that's overreacting. Do you see what happened in these examples I gave? You're playing both roles. Being the receiver of the harm, and simultaneously, like you're the aggrieved, you're the victim, and simultaneously you're the one excusing the person, the perpetrator. Like that's the role that the perpetrator should be playing, but you are playing it on yourself, and that is even more. What's the word I want to use now? That's sadder. I think like that's a simple. It's just more sad when you're the one doing it to yourself. And I thought before starting this episode that why do we do that to ourselves? And I think the first reason that came to my mind is fear. I think we're scared of what will happen if we admit to ourselves the whole truth, which is that if I admit, for example, that this friend is, abusing me, then I have to admit to myself that maybe they do not like me, or maybe we are not compatible, and then I have to go through the cycle of trying to look for another friend, and that's kind of hard. Or if I admit to myself that this man is actually abusive, then I have to consider leaving. And wow, I will not have a man. That is stressful, you know, especially if you've been conditioned to think that being in a relationship is the end all and be all. I think the second reason why we do this is hope. Because half the time, the people, even in these scenarios where I have told my friends, don't gaslight yourself, it's never with someone who is totally bad. Or half the time, sure. I know there are instances where it is with people who are simultaneously really like what they're doing is really, really harmful. But half the time when we do it, and that's why I don't even want to heavily lean on scenarios that are really extreme, even though they are common in the society we live in. But I don't want to only lean on these examples because it happens in our day to day lives with people who we consider as good people. But it doesn't mean that we should gaslight ourselves um, towards them. So I think the second thing is hope. We cling so much to the good part of the person that we tell ourselves that it outweighs the bad. We do like a sort of netting off. Like, oh, this person does all this good, so I should therefore, as if like there's an unspoken rule that once this person has done so much good, I should therefore not look at anything bad the person is doing. And life just doesn't work that way. It's like, oh, this my friend mocks me or they say negative things about me in public, but honestly, whenever I have my birthdays, um they give me a lot of gifts. They help me on a day-to-day basis when I'm stranded. They're the ones I go to for help, or you know, they help me in one way or another. So this other way in which they diminish me, I shouldn't um I shouldn't allow myself acknowledge it. Third, I think the third reason why this happens is conditioning. Because a lot of us grew up in actually harmful environments, and so we associate love with things that might be harmful. We associate love with someone depriving us or someone speaking down on us or someone actually abusing us, like physically, not only sort of mentally. And so when we see someone doing something that we can feel is harmful because our bodies know, we tell, or we even grew up with adults who say things like, oh, you're ungrateful when you sort of complain about something they've done that has negatively impacted you, or like you're exaggerating. And so we have learned to just silence those alarm bells, like the same way this adult who claimed to love me, this auntie, this parent who claimed to love me did this negative thing. And I still associated it with love because I've been conditioned to think of it that way. Now that this stranger outside or this friend or this husband or wife is doing this, I think that I'm still allowed to tell myself that it's love. Yeah, and sometimes society too, because for example, in the case of abuse in a relationship, many times we have known women who maybe are married to rich men, and when that person tells someone in society that, oh, this is what this person is doing, they say, oh, at least he pays the bills. And in the case of like a woman who is, not a good idea for a man, they say, oh, at least she cooks for you and she takes care of the kids. So even if she's abusive in these other ways, sort of don't admit it. And this is sort of this insinuates that good behavior cancels out abuse, which it doesn't. Let me give you a picture to make this real to you. You know that one friend that you have that always throws jokes that are like digs to you. They always throw shade. They say things like, so Yusuf, you are someone that you didn't look like someone that could have pulled off that job, or they just say things that are hurtful. Maybe you don't have children yet, and they say you won't understand. You don't understand because you don't have kids yet. You're still looking for children, or they just consistently say harmful things to you. And whenever you frown or express displeasure, they say, "Oh, relax, I'm just joking." I think that's where the gaslighting sticks in that case. For example, you could say to yourself, and I have seen people say this to themselves, where they begin to now label themselves as sensitive, and I'm like, sis, I've known you all your life. You were not sensitive. Maybe you need to reevaluate if somebody is saying to you things that you should be sensitive about. You know that, for example, in this instance, those jokes They chip at your confidence and your self-esteem. I think the harmful thing about when you gaslight yourself is the fact that you cannot protect yourself. In this instance, for example, if you do not admit to yourself that this friend either doesn't like me, because why would you say that about me if you liked me? Or they don't like themselves and they are consistently projecting, or they're just not people who know how to associate with other people without bringing them down a notch. If you don't shall admit the fact that this thing they are doing is harmful, there is no way you can protect yourself. In this case, for example, with such friends, if even if you can't cut them off, you can position yourself differently when relating with them. If you admit to yourself, like, this thing that this person is doing is harmful to me, if I stay with this person consistently, like, first of all, if you don't admit yourself, if you just tell yourself you are sensitive, you would never, like, you would just continue with life. You would never sort of sit down and evaluate, like, okay, this thing this person is doing is hurting, is hurtful, and it is aimed at diminishing my confidence and myself and my self-esteem. And if I allow it, soon I will start having self-esteem issues. I'll start doubting myself. I'm feeling like maybe I'm too sensitive, or maybe I'm this and that, or maybe I'm not. Oh, maybe I couldn't really have done this, or maybe I'm not deserving of blah blah blah. But if you're able to sit down and tell yourself the truth, that this person is saying this thing that is harmful, it's insultive. If they did love me, they wouldn't have said this. Then you're able to sort of strategize to say, okay, I need to maybe limit my closeness with this person, or I need to call it out and speak to the person, like, I don't like that you say these things to me, and who knows, maybe the person might change. Or in the case of a woman who is with a man who constantly belittles her, maybe he controls what she wears, he checks her phone, he raises his voice, and sometimes even gets physical with her. That's real harm. But at the same time, that type of man, for example, in most cases, actually might be maybe the one paying her rent. He might get her lots of nice gifts and do a lot of PTA. He might be very generous to her family. In a case like that, if she does not admit to herself that just because he's doing all the other rent, buying or buying her a lot of gifts, or her quote unquote sponsor, it doesn't make it okay that he does all the other emotionally and physically abusive things that he does. Even in the case of men, which is not maybe often spoken about, maybe a man is dating a woman that is always insulting him in public, embarrassing him, mocks his ambitions, mocks everything that makes him him. But maybe she cooks a lot because men like that, and she's like very homely. He might want to gaslight himself to say, oh, at least, she has my back and she's a good cook or whatever, whatever. But that does not diminish, the self esteem she's crushing, and the ways in which she's embarrassing him, or the ways in which um the things she's doing is harmful. I think all in all, even at work, wherever, with friends, with colleagues at work, with bosses, with whoever, consistently sacrificing your rest, your peace of mind is not sustainable. Consistently sacrificing yourself because you believe that, oh, this other person has done some good for me, so let me just take it like that, is not sustainable. In order, if not for anything, just so that you can re-strategize, just so that you can go back to the drawing table and be like, okay, if I've admitted this person is doing is harmful, then I can decide, like, okay, I'm gonna move differently, or I'll position myself in this way when I'm talking to them, or I will avoid them. I think it's important to realize where we are gaslighting ourselves and stop. How do we stop? I think we should name it, as I've just said. Call it hurtful, call it harmful. Also, know that things are not mutually exclusive. Two things can exist at once. People are complex. Somebody can be generous and be abusive. Somebody can be kind in public and can be cruel in private. Somebody can be loving one day and harmful another day. Like, two things can exist simultaneously. Allow it. It doesn't mean that, oh, the person's bad side means that their good side does not exist. But let the two of them exist. Hold it that, yes, this person is generous and kind on some days, but simultaneously, the way this person puts me down on these other days is also harmful. Also ask yourself, if my friend told me this story, that this thing happened to them, what would I say? Because I think that sometimes we excuse things when it's ourselves because we just take things. But when it's for somebody else that we love, we wouldn't take it. Also, I think we should write things down. Journaling helps. When you write it down sometimes and you read it back, you will realize how ridiculous it is that you are defending that thing the person did. Also, set boundaries. I think protecting yourself does not mean you have to hate the person or even cut the person off. It just means value yourself enough so that you can strategize to not continue being a recipient of that harm. So, I think that's about it today. If you take one thing from this episode, please take that two truths can exist at the same time. Love does not excuse harm. Gifts don't erase harm or your wounds. And your reality is valid. Full stop. So have you ever caught yourself downplaying someone's bad behavior because they were so good to you in other ways? Write that in the comments. Thank you so much for sipping this tea with me on Tea and Takes with Simi. Please share with your friend who might need to hear this, and follow me so that you can get notified whenever I drop a new episode. Until next time, besties, take care. I love you. Bye.